With a yo-ho-ho, it's Tale of the Toaster, and I have got for you all today another video about Bluelock. So the quick rundown before we get started is, if you're one of my subscribers, you know this channel is mostly about Inazuma 11, a different football anime, and if you came here because you're a fan of Bluelock, then that's what I'm all about, but this is the second video that I've made about Bluelock itself. I originally, at the halfway point of the season, made a top 10 characters video based on only those who were in Team Z, so including our protagonist Isagi, right down to Imamura, Yudai, you know, all of them getting involved, but I only ranked those from the protagonist team back when they were the protag team. Now the season is finished. There are obviously going to be more seasons, but we've seen 24 episodes, and if you haven't seen them, I'm going to spoil them all for you. This video will have spoilers for everything. There'll even be a character from episode 24 out of 24 in it. You know, I don't need to go too unnecessary with it, but essentially this is going to be another character ranking, but with the original characters from the top 10, which you can still watch up in the whichever corner it is, that one. You can still watch my top 10 characters from Team Z. I'll still be referring back to that throughout this, and this will be pretty much everyone else who is a major character in the season, at least who is a player. So no Ego, no Anri, just anyone who is a player in Season 1. I've got pretty much 10 of them to give you another list. Before we do that, just for anyone who has seen my original top 10 on the Team Z characters, what do I think of all those guys now that the season is actually finished? Isagi, the main character, he was my second favourite. He still is, if not literally number one. He's only continued to get better. Chigiri, there he is. We knew he was going to be important. That was pretty much my entire reasoning in my ranking, where I had him somewhere in the middle. He's clearly just going to be important, and indeed he is like the third most important of the Team Z players. I still don't feel that strongly towards him. I like him, I don't dislike him. Bachira, therefore, obviously still the second most important character, and he has actually continued to get better, because my only real problem with him in the first half of the season was that it was a little too contrived, a little too good. You know, you were just waiting for him to have his moment, and any situation could have probably been resolved by Bachira. Whereas now, it isn't. In fact, he's kind of taken a step back. He's had to grow as a character. Good, that's what I wanted. Kunigami, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I've even got his issue of the manga right next to me. Like I've got 3 of them, but this is the only one I haven't read yet. So poor guy's just here, and well, that's it for you, Toodlepin. Meanwhile, King Gagamaru's still here. Again, episode 24, we've seen who the remaining 35 characters are, and he gets to be one of them. Like, I didn't expect that. I didn't think he was particularly important. Jingo Raichi also gets to survive the cut, but thank God for that. In my top 10, I had him really low down. I had him like 9th because he felt like such a contrived anime character, just getting angry at everything. But I rewatched every episode like twice. So I rewatched it all in Japanese, and then I watched the dub as well. I've completely changed my mind on him. He's so funny. No, whether he's talking in English or Japanese, I just love the voice acting that goes on to bring this guy to life. And now that we're still in a point where there's 35 characters and they're all still strikers, the fact that this guy's so good at defense, I really want him to stick at that no matter how much he hates it. He's actually like top 3 characters overall for me now, along with Isagi and Iemon, the former goalkeeper, who has of course bitten the dust. He will have gotten to play some outfield football in the second stage, done nothing with it. We only got to see him in a post-episode Bluelock additional time, which was a funny scene, but that's all we've had of him since. I really enjoyed him in his role as a goalkeeper, and he was my favourite character, but I'm not sure if I can confidently say that now that he's had 0 involvement since. The traitor Kuon is gone as well. I'm a little sad about it. I liked that guy, but it makes sense. You know, he'd played his role. He didn't have too much more to offer. Especially Naruhaya. that guy, like, he shared a top 10 spot with Yudai Imamura in my previous video because I just, like, didn't even recognise him at the time of making the video. I'd watched every episode and not even spotted him. But that was the point. They didn't want you to notice this guy. It's not like they weren't giving him lines. He was having any. He's just insanely unnoticeable. And then they bring him back in the second stage to team him up with Barou, and he instantly becomes like my favourite character. I like him even more than I liked Iemon as a goalkeeper. We know he's totally done. He's never having an episode ever again, but the entire arc where he was fighting for survival against Isagi, that was my favourite part of the whole of Season 1. They took this guy that I literally had to say in a video that I didn't recognise, and they played off that and made him, easily my favourite character now. And then Yudai Imamura is still just as unnoticeable as ever. I literally have to Google his name before every recording. I keep calling him Breeder from Pokemon Emerald to remember him. But that's it for the recap. Let's move on to the actual top 10 with the new characters who had some kind of role in the season. Starting with Tsurugi Zantetsu. Very funny that it's another Tsurugi again. Inazuma fans unite. Victor Blade is called Tsurugi as well, but at least this guy, you can call him Zantetsu. Is he on here somewhere? Yeah, there. No, that's Barou. I can't read this upside down. No, I guess he's not important enough, and that's why he's number 10. He is still going to be in the next season. He made the 35, but it's very much a case of stupid guy equals funny, and it just makes a load of localization jokes for the translators to have to deal with, and they do a very good job with it, but I just feel sorry for them doing this week in, week out, just to keep stupid glasses guy around. He's fine. I don't not like him. There are no characters in this list that I don't like, but he's just got nothing going on for me. Therefore, at number 9, we've got the others who don't really do a great deal for me, and that's the Wanima Brothers, but more specifically the one who's still around, Junichi Wanima, the guy who didn't talk. That's his thing. Yeah, I could potentially have these guys even lower than Zantetsu. There's just the fact that one of them might go on to do a little bit more in Season 2. So on that promise, I've gone for number 9. But where I'm looking for drawbacks to Inazuma 11, as you can see, Inazuma fan, these guys instead just give me 100% Captain Tsubasa. Like, I know, yeah, the guy I didn't go over in my recap, Igarashi, Gurumu, the monk guy, he's still around. I love that he's getting carried to the final 35 and he's acting like he's done such a good job of getting there. But he's a very deliberate Captain Tsubasa reference. And then the Wanima Brothers, they feel like the other one. I didn't get very far in the Switch game of Captain Tsubasa. It was way too hard for me, but the one that I got stuck on, I believe, was against the two brothers, or either that was the last match I ever managed to beat, or it was the one that I couldn't beat and I gave up on the game. Just a bit of a foolish one to admit, but yeah, these guys 100% remind me of Captain Tsubasa, which is the football anime that I haven't watched in any great detail, and the ways in which they develop on that by, not talking and being angry and having very over-the-top designs, they still immersion break quite a lot. So I've got nothing against them. Anime can have larger-than-life characters, but it's not really something that I'm drawn to. But in my previous top 10, I had something that aged very poorly, even if it was accurate at the time. My guy who teamed up with Barou and barely even caught the first glance ended up being my favourite character, Naruhaya, obviously to use his name. But therefore, I think this list needs something that's going to age poorly as well. So from episode 24 specifically, filling out the list is going to be Ryusei Shidou. Ryusei, that's an Inazuma thing, Meteor Blade and Meteor Boy and all of that. Yeah, this guy has had half an episode so far where he's been responsible for killing off my guy Kunigami and just having a very eye-catching design, just like all of the other characters I haven't even had time to acknowledge. He's clearly going to be like the new Rin, a big character going into Season 2, and right now he's had half an episode and he's just kind of been a dick to everyone, and probably warrants it. He's probably extremely good at football. But I did some thinking about this, right? And therefore, based on my hypothesis, maybe he's actually not that great. Because, well, for one thing, he teamed up with Igarashi, which is, how do you end up in that situation? But we know that as a result of his matches in the second stage, he defeated the team of Kunigami and Ryo, and then chose to add Ryo to his team. That means that he was in the 2v2 stage at one point, and therefore when he was in a team of 3, he lost! LOL! I don't even know if I've done that the right way around, depends if my footage gets flipped. But too bad, this guy's got a loss under his belt. I'm sure he'll be the big guy to beat going into Season 2, but right now he's got all the ego in the world, he's killed off my guy, and I mean, it's not like Kunigami was ever one of my favourites, but he's the one you're meant to care about as he's defeated him. But I know he lost a match, so let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. So as we go into the top 7, the characters will have been a lot more important to the series as a whole from this point on. Number 7 is going to be Tokimitsu, the big buff guy who's so afraid, but you can't beat him because he's so tough. He's a character that I like. Again, I like them all, but definitely makes it a little harder to take his overall team seriously when you know... It's like basically when we had the big showdown 5-4 of Rin versus Isagi, it's like, well, it feels like Isagi's team's going to win, because you couldn't imagine Isagi going on to the team and having this joke of a character as an actual, like, main leading character now, could you? And, well, apparently you could, but only for one episode. Indeed, as soon as Isagi joined onto Rin's team, and then you have to play against the World 11 with a pretty much a joke character like Tokimitsu on your side, even if he is a good footballer, he's clearly not, you know, going to be the best in the world, is he, with an attitude like that? So as soon as you were on the team with him, it's like, okay, how far can this team actually go? This guy isn't going to, like, graduate Bluelock and become a member of the Japan under-24 team, is he? Maybe he will in Season 2. I could be wrong, but the guy seems a little too larger than life to actually see something coming for him later in the series. He also really reminds me of Darren LeChance from Inazuma 11, and I'm not sure why. Like, they've only really got the nervousness in common and a bit of their appearance. Like, they both do the finger prod thing a little bit, but before I learned his name, I pretty much just called him Darren until Tokimitsu finally stuck in the mind. Therefore, at number 6, I'm pretty much going to have the exact opposite, and that's going to be Iki Niko. This is by far the least important character left in the ranking, but again, I always forget his name and I just call him Joker from Persona 5, including the from Persona 5, like if I'm kind of rambling to myself about what I want to see in the next episode. I'm like, yeah, I want to see Joker from Persona 5 in the next one. We know he's still in it. He kind of one-upped the guy who... The guy with the blonde hair who technically could have been in this top 10 if I didn't include Ryusei Shidou instead. But Oki to... that's not his name, but that shows you why he's not in the list. But they built up a big blonde striker as the main guy in his team, and then he was kind of setting up the main striker. Isagi beat Joker from Persona 5, which is just the name I'm going to stick with at this point, which inspired him to be like, okay, I need to step up my game. If I'm going to be a big analytical player like Isagi, I still need to at least start getting some goals for myself, because my team is done. I won't survive in Bluelock if I don't start scoring goals. He went away and did it off screen, and then we've barely seen him since, but we've had just enough to know he's still around. And we knew that he teamed up with Zantetsu, which was hopefully going to be good enough to get him through, and it did. So I really enjoyed him in the 2.5 episodes we've had of the guy. He can't be too much higher because we've had so little. But in terms of the 10 characters in this list, he is probably the most excited. Well, it makes me the most excited to see him in Season 2, because I think his potential is limitless. He was stuck on a bad team all the way through the first selection. He cleared the second selection entirely off screen. We know nothing about it other than the fact he teamed up with Zantetsu, but he may well have just cleared the whole thing in one go. He might have been the best player there. And although I don't think he's going to be a major character in the next season, he's someone I really, really want to see again, because, you know, you've got your versions of Isagi, you've got the protagonist, then you've got the big bad version of Rin, and then you've got kind of the B-Tech light version of him in Niko, and I want to see him come into his own and actually show he's up there with the best. Someone who's already up there with the best is Jubei Aryu, someone from the top 3, as they keep saying, and I was tempted to put this guy higher because he's hit or miss sometimes. In a football match, I'm never really paying that much attention to him. He's got his reach, he's got his jumping, but he's never going to have the lead moment. It's either going to be your team or it's going to be Rin. But I really enjoy him in all of the scenes that's not football. In particular, his Bluelock additional time, just playing into the glam thing. The glam. I'm going to break my hair permanently from this, aren't I? But, oh, fuck. For the thumbnail, glam. There you go. That's his thing. But he can't really go any higher on the list because, like Tokimitsu, as soon as you were on a team with him, you kind of noticed, yeah, this guy's too much of a joke character for this to be the characters for the rest of Bluelock. He would be holding back in a sense that you can't picture him as a protagonist like you could with Chigiri, with Barou, all of those. And I think that going into Season 2, he's going to be in it because he's been carried there by Rin's team, by Isagi's team, but he's not going to have a big role, is he? I think this character is kind of done, but for everything that he's offered so far, I've loved it. He's entertained me so much, and he gets the glam thumbs up. So I've alluded to him enough, let's just bung Itoshi Rin in at number 4, and I can kind of tell this is the Chigiri equivalent for this list. Some people will think Rin is like, the best character ever! He's so good, he's the opposing force, and he's so cool, and that's kind of why I can't put him too high. He is just the definition of good football player, whereas I guess Chigiri before was the definition of someone who's going to be really good. He's very necessary to the plot progression. That's why I couldn't possibly not have him in the top 5. Matches that involve Rin just become 10 times more unpredictable. Like, imagine if you were facing off against the top 3 of Tokimitsu and Aryu, and then Rin was just nowhere to be found. Even if Bachira was on there, you'd be like, right, well, Isagi's team is going to win. Whereas when Rin is on the pitch, you're like, what is he going to do next? Usually the answer to that is going to be, he's going to score a goal, but in what fashion is the fascination of it? And seeing how Isagi's mind is going to work to beat this guy, it makes the show as good as it is. So I think Rin, there's not much to him other than the fact he's got a cool design, he's good at football, he can speak English, but it's more the way the show revolves around him that makes him good. And then I can also handicap him from going any higher in the list because his obsession with his little brother is a bit weird. Like, it kind of takes away from the whole aspect of Bluelock in that, you know, you've got this facility with 300 players to find the best striker in all of Japan, and what, it's just going to be the little brother of the guy who's already on the team? You didn't need Bluelock to find that guy. You could have just asked him to get involved. He was clearly already on your radar, so he's not like the guy you'd want to win Bluelock because it would have wasted Bluelock. So the fact that he already is the best so far could be quashing his potential, but that's why we've got this Shidou Ryusei guy to say, hey, he's not the best, maybe. Top 3 then. Let's just go with Barou Shoei next. I wasn't going to have him too high until his final few episodes in Season 1. I didn't particularly care about him as just the big bad Zanark type villain of the opposing teams, and then even when he was an opponent, I was much more so focused on Naruhaya, my new favourite character of the whole show. Barou was, as ever, just being a big bad striker who scores the goals, goalless scoring. But once he actually went through his character development arc, that totally made him. And the fact that he had a character development arc is huge, because not too many characters have been able to have a big arc like that. Characters have developed, but they haven't had an arc necessarily. But Barou has completely changed as a character and as a player, but he's still got all of what he was originally set up to be still in there. He's very fun to watch on the pitch, and now that he has grown, he's just shot up the list. I know that he's a fan favourite, and I too really like him, even if he's not my typical kind of character. The other thing I really thank him for is, you know, I'm used to my football anime having over-the-top special moves, and Obviously, that doesn't happen in Bluelock. It's trying to be realistic. Unless it's Barou. He basically has like an Inazuma 11 shot, just surrounded by all the red trails and stuff. He makes his shots actually look like Hisatsu techniques. And as a character exclusive trait, I think that's great to have on him specifically. And the fact that it's even more like Zanuck from Inazuma is just funny at that point. He's even got Disaster Break. Into the top 2 then. So if I were to combine my 2 top 10s into a top 20, I think my new number 1 is Naruhaya. It's still followed by Isagi. Iemon, I'd have to think about it more. He could be as high as 3rd and as low as 5th. But these 2 would definitely be within that top 5. And number 2, I'm going to come out with Mikage Reo. But he does have the potential to be number 1, and that's partially what's helped him get so high. He's like the purple-haired guy who was part of Team Z's biggest trial in the first selection. We were like, well, this is the big bad guy, and he's teaming up with his mate to just take down everyone. But he has been the most unpredictable character all the way through, I would say. Like, he was there to be Nagi's buddy, and they work together as an excellent unit, and then he immediately gets ditched going into the second stage, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty funny, actually. It will be great to see this guy competing on his own skills. How well will he do? The answer is, not that great. He's completely lost out there without the guy, and he loses to Nagi and gets sent into the pit of despair. And I really enjoyed it, seeing just this guy being constantly pissed off and wanting to get revenge on his friend and failing to do so. He played a great role, and that enough would be to get would get him pretty high, but I'd also have to cap him off there. But he gains like 1,000,000 points based on the fact he's back. We've seen this guy's arc of working together with someone more talented than him, getting a little bit carried but still being good in his own right, then being forced to fight solo and he doesn't manage it. But then, yeah, left on a team with just him and Kunigami, it is him that survives under fairly unknown circumstances, I guess. We know that Ryusei Shidou doesn't like the whole hero shtick, so he picks Reo out of the 2. We don't know if he was a big contributing factor after that. He must have been to carry Gurumu Igarashi, you know, but he could do anything in Season 2. He could end up being the new protagonist for all we know, and he's got boundless potential. I like his design. I love just how distraught he is at this whole Bluelock process. He hates being there, bro, but he's still in it, and he could literally do whatever the writers want to do with him in Season 2, and that is what I'm excited for. But number 1, it couldn't be anyone other than Nagi, could it? He's the GOAT. He, again, controls the pace of every episode that he's in alongside Isagi. I loved his bravery to just bin off his mate in Reo and then just go for something different to actually get better at football. And he's got the most charming voice to listen to in Japanese. Not so much in the dub. I think the dub's really, really good. But Nagi's maybe the one who just loses the softness of his voice a bit. But it's still like a 7 out of 10 compared to everyone else's 10, you know? But, you know, I love watching him play football. I love watching him talk. I love seeing what he's going to say next. The fact that he's a complete novice to football in terms of knowledge means you can get this guy to do anything. At the end of the day, he trusts in Isagi and then the people that he's recruited along the way afterwards. And the colour scheme as well, the white hair, the black backdrop, my 2 favourite colours. Like, Bluelock is so defined by its colours, and this guy gets both of the ones I like the most from a stylish point of view. But I don't feel like this takes much elaborating, you know? He was the best striker we saw in the series up to a point, and then we've put him in a new context where suddenly he's not going to be the best anymore. We find this guy's weaknesses and we constantly see him evolve, both in terms of as a person depending on people and as a footballer learning more about it and playing in different ways. He carried the second half of the season and I don't think there's really much denying that. So of course it's got to be Nagi. He's in my top 5 characters. I like Isagi and Naruhaya more, but you know, out of the characters who are going to be in Season 2, he's therefore in the top 4. Well, that's it for another top 10. Maybe you want some more Bluelock that isn't just character rankings and top 10s. if you want me to keep talking about Bluelock, let me know in the comments what you'd want to see. And I'm sure at some point I may be able to bring Inazuma 11 and Bluelock into the same kind of video, but that will need some idea generation. But this has been fun. You've essentially had a top 20 characters out of a total of like 23. So I am so excited for Season 2, and I'll definitely be back for more Bluelock content when that happens. Thank you to this anime for existing. It is already like a top 3 anime ever for me. Like, my favourite anime are Inazuma 11, Bluelock, and School Rumble in any particular order. Like, obviously Inazuma's still the GOAT. I'm not going to say I like Bluelock more than Inazuma. Nostalgia carries too hard for me, but it's finally so good to have a football anime that other people are watching. You know, Inazuma, I can just talk about it with you guys in the comments and my fellow content creators, but Bluelock, everyone's watching this because it's sick. And finally it feels like we've won, you know? We have a football anime that's good and people like it, and it's not just half a joke. But yes, subscribe for more Bluelock content, subscribe for more Inazuma content, and I will see you in another one.